Good morning and welcome to week 3 of developing a business plan and strategy for working with PennDOT. Today's topic is SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I'm glad that you decided to join us today. Just a few housekeeping items. Your access is on mute. Please raise your hand or send me send something in the chat box if you would like to speak or participate. If you are joining us on your mobile device, make sure that you have downloaded the GoToWebinar app. You need this app on your mobile device in order to see the PowerPoints as we go along. Okay, so that's the end of housekeeping. If you have been attending, we have covered our business concept. We've evaluated our business concept, discussed how it applies to PennDOT. We have gone onto the PennDOT website, ECMS, and found the project or projects that should have been ours. We've looked at language in these projects and the websites for the firms who got the dollars that we think should have been ours. We've evaluated our business concept and made sure that our business description describes the business we do in heavy highway. If you have not been with us or you haven't done this yet, you need to start there. This does not prevent you from participating in this week's class on SWOT analysis and why we do it and why we do it every year. I'm sure that's a question that many of you have. So, SWOT. SWOT means strengths and weaknesses inside our organization. We look at these for the sole purpose of deciding what strengths we should promote in our marketing and how to build on these, and how to give our company direction based on our strengths. Weaknesses are the areas inside our company that we feel we need to strengthen in order to move forward. These are the things that we can't do, haven't done, aren't prepared to do in order to get that next or bigger contract. Weaknesses result in a training or action plan, a list of milestones for things that we need to do as we go along. We can't do them all at once, but we want to have that list of weaknesses in front of us, not to browbeat ourselves, but to know these are the things that we want to tackle inside of our company, fix, shore up, change in order to grow the company. Opportunities are outside of your organization. Given your strengths and weaknesses, what are the opportunities available for a firm like yours? Your size, your capabilities, your abilities, your outreach, what are the opportunities there? How to get them? An examination of the opportunities gives you direction also. And these are the things that you're going to go after. Threats are the things outside of your organization that could sidetrack it. We look at these so we can prepare to avoid or overcome them. So when we look at our SWOT, we're looking at our identity. Okay. What makes our business different from others? When we look at these strengths and the weaknesses, what do you want? What do you do well? How do you do things? What makes you unique? It's like looking in the mirror and recognizing what you see, but as a business rather than an individual. We should all know that sometimes we look in the mirror, but we don't see what's really there. And this is an opportunity to look and really examine what you see. Just because the fat lady looks back at you doesn't mean that you can't diet and exercise and change that around. So we've talked about strengths and weaknesses. These are things that we can change with planning. It follows in the plan. It needs to be inserted in your plan. You need to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. When you look in that mirror, you don't want to be lying to yourself. You want to know what these things are and think about how to work that into your strategy. Strengths and weaknesses should change every year. If you're saying today that your strength is reputation, you want to make sure that your reputation is reflected in your marketing materials, your website, your capability statement. Your website should have testimonials to confirm that those are your strengths. And so should your capability statement. You should have no problem getting references if your strength is your reputation. If you're saying that your strength is your reputation and you can't find anyone who's willing to go on the record and say so, then maybe they are not seeing what you see when they look in your mirror. Weaknesses have to be addressed one at a time. You need a plan for turning weaknesses into strengths. You can't do them all at the same time, but it can be done. And the very fact that you're aware of that makes your company more viable. Another way to look at strengths is core competencies. What are the things in transportation that you really, really have a handle on? And in turn, what is that sweet spot, that bid opportunity that you can do best? My family has an accounting business, and my strength in that business is the details, is customer relationships, making sure that returns are processed in a timely fashion and filed properly. But my strength is not the tax code. When I start reading the tax code, I feel like my eyes glaze over. I don't want to be involved. Well, you've got to know what your strengths are. And in our family business, if you have to address a tax code, they know, don't call me. Every firm who wants to work in this industry needs a web presence. You need business cards, capability statements, and a business plan that needs to get updated on a regular basis. You need your business partner ID and your DBE and other certifications. You must have these things. They are internal to your company, but you have to have those. And those things need to indicate not just the name of your company, but what are the strengths? What are the things that someone looking to hire will find in you? So if you haven't addressed those core competencies, you need to start looking at that. Opportunities and threats. We've talked about what is going on in outside of your company that pose both an opportunity and a threat for your company. This is a clip from ECMS. If you've never seen it before and you are a contractor, you have a problem. When you go on ECMS and you look at the bid opportunities, you have to look at the plans. There are lots of them. They're little tiny print. I blew this one up. But if you don't find what you are doing on this list, then that's a problem. So there are a couple of opportunities, a few opportunities for excavation in different types, geotextile, and that list goes on and on. You need to familiarize yourself with these lists, print them out, find someone who can go through them with you and help you to understand what they say. If you are a consultant, you need to be on this list of advertisements and looking at what are the things that they are looking for. Outside of your company, if you're not selling what they're buying, then that's a reason you cannot get a job or get business. So don't avoid it just because it's difficult. PennDOT is aware that that ECMS is one of the obstacles that need to be overcome. You need to force yourself to go on ECMS on a regular basis, or someone in your office needs to do that. When I came here 6 years ago, it was overwhelming. But I said to myself, I must spend 10 minutes every day on ECMS or I won't be able to help firms like yours. So this is part of identifying those opportunities and threats. You need to be able to see yourself somewhere in ECMS. And if you can't do that, this may be the wrong business for you. Then you have to look at risk. Every business has risk. And risk is more than the liability issues of someone injuring themselves through use on the job or through use of your product or service. There's lots of risk involved in this particular industry. Some of them you can avoid, others you have to accept. Some of them get transferred or reduced to to an acceptable range. But you've got to know what the risks are. And each of the people on this call now have a different kind of risk. So there's market risk. The market is not buying what you're selling. And so that's another reason to look at ECMS and see, are there things that you can sell or are selling, but people don't know it? There's the competition out there. So people do business with people they know, people they like, people they trust. How do you become that person or that business? Is your technology up to date? Are you doing the things that you need to do in order to be competitive in this business? Is there product risk? Are you able to do the job that needs to be done? And then can you execute it in a timely fashion? One of the things I said to a business recently is that he has to be in charge of his people. So they're working a job, certain machinery has to be used, and Somebody walks up and tells his team, don't use that, use something else. Your team needs to know that they work for you and that you make those decisions. They should have said to that person, see the boss. He's on the other side of the bridge. Capitalization risk is a big risk for many of our companies. You underestimate costs, you run out of money. Not many of us are doing business globally, but we might. You need to identify which risks are most critical to your business. If your business has a low barrier to entry, if it's easy to get into, then competition is a big issue, because if everybody could do it, they would. You also need to think about, how do you plan to hold on to the clients that you have? And we'll talk more about that later. So once you've identified the risk, how does that work with your strategic position in moving you forward, and how do you get that written down? So again, everything we're talking about, you want to write your thoughts down in the plan. So we've identified what your business is. Where is it in the marketplace? Are you the only DBE firm that does this? How many other firms that aren't DBE that do this? What makes the prime or PennDOT buy from you? You know that if you're a contractor, it's low bid. But if you're consultant, it's best value. And how do you convey that information? And do you have advantages over the competitors? It can't just be that you are DBE. You've got to say, this is what I do. And by the way, I'm also a DBE. Your strategic position defines what you do and what you don't do. The strengths and weaknesses, and I'm going to provide a copy of the form that we use for the SWOT, which I would like you to complete, and I'd like you to send that back to me. What's going on in your industry and how that's working towards your position. You want to talk about any competitive changes and opportunities and any changes through new technologies. Don't try to be all things to all people. That's a new business desperation tactic. You want to be planful, decide on your steps based on your long-term plan. Don't accept every job. I said that this was not for the faint-hearted, but sometimes you need to let a job go by and wait for the right opportunity, the opportunity that matches your company. Strategic positioning is not advertising. It's more than advertising. Yes, it might be a new message geared towards your audience, but there's more. Customer service, redesign yourself, educate yourself on a new or different demographic or service. I remember, if you remember, we looked at Lane's mission statement. Lane's mission statement states what they are about, and that's important as you tell your story. So we've talked about the unique role your company will hold in the marketplace and giving it a defensible position. But before you do any of this, determine the personal impacts of doing this business, prepare for those impacts, and mitigate the risk of of failure. You also want to look at um, the differentiators. What are the things that make you different? And this is a critical look in the mirror. The customer perception factors in this organization, this industry are big. They are the factors that make the customer, the prime or PennDOT, choose you over your competitors. Are you better? Are you faster? Are you cheaper? And how do you promote that? How do you get people to believe that you are better, faster, or cheaper? The market segment. Are you working in an area where there are so many firms doing what you do? Do you need to be the one who works in Erie or in District 2 or somewhere that there aren't a lot of DBEs? Are there operational or technical advantages? Can you improve your profit margin by looking at suppliers or becoming the sole distributor for something? A skip market share, establishing and maintaining market dominance, and thus intimidating the competition around you. Do you have products that only you can sell? Is there a way to identify a supplier who can work out a deal with you alone? Excuse me. And are you developing and maintaining sales channels to reach your customers? All of these things make a difference, and you have to find a way to identify yourself as different from others. And then there's branding. Branding again has to do with customer perception, their trust in your products or services. You have to be consistent in what you do. You also need to tell a story, and we will know your brand because your story will be told by your employees, on your website, in your capability statement, and in your business plan. This story needs to be told. Who are you? Why are you? Why should I hire you? Again, to put yourself in a position, you have to be able to tell your story, and you need to know your client pain points. What are the things that your client needs to resolve? They're not trying to meet the DBE goal, although it would be good if they could. They're trying to get the contract. It's about low bid, good service, making sure the bridge doesn't fall down after you build it. You also need to be selling the things that they are buying. So if they are self-performing the things that you do, they're not your target. You need to find someone who doesn't self-perform what you do. And you need to find the right person to talk to people to represent you and your company. That's so important. So in the construction business, it's low profit margin, there are high equipment costs, there can be significant upfront cash requirements. And there's an old boy network. So often people work with the people that they know. They're not working with people they haven't met. So if you've heard that 90-day commando, you can't go to a networking event, hand out your materials, and go home and wait for people to call you. You need a list of primes or others that you have identified as these are the companies who are buying what I'm selling. They bought it from company X, and I want them to buy it from me. So you give them your marketing materials, you follow it up in the next day or two with an email. You follow that up with a mailer. You follow the mailer up with a phone call 60 days from then and say, look, I'd like to come in and sit down with you. Every time that you are rejected or don't win a bid, you need to be on the phone asking for a coffee meeting, not dinner, not lunch. I need to meet with you for just a few minutes, and I need you to tell me why I did not win. Every rejection is an opportunity to learn something. And once you get that opportunity, you have to guarantee that the quality of your job is high every time, all the time. And that has to happen. And you also need to be aware that there are certain opportunities that are part of every highway construction job. So find those things that recur all the time. Find the firm that doesn't always self-perform that item themselves, and then find out what your company needs to do to move into that arena. Okay, so on our business plan, we now have a company description. We have some information about the industry, the target market, and we are building on that all the time, identifying who is buying what we're selling. The competition is who is winning what we're selling. And now we're going to write about our strategic position and risk assessment. So I would like you to write your own SWOT. That SWOT template is attached to this item. It will be posted on PennsylvaniaDBE.com, and Scott will also email that SWOT to you. I'd like you to complete that and send it back to me. Next week, we'll be talking about strategic position and operations. And this is an opportunity for you to ask a question. Okay, we're quiet. But if you have a question, please feel free to email it to me. I ask that you complete the evaluation that's following this webinar, and I will talk to you next week. Again, my contact information is listed here. It will be listed on the website. Please feel free to reach out to us anytime. Thank you and have a great day.